When we first moved back to Massachusetts, we bought our very first home in Natick. We scraped our pennies together and bought an 1850s Cape style home that needed a lot of fixing up. We were on the corner of a new development, which had nice big colonials with big yards and attached two-car garage and shiny new kitchens. That was not our reality. All of our neighbors they all had labs for dogs, and they all had either a boat or a vacation home. That does not tell the whole story about the population of Natick. I'm Jane. Welcome to my channel, Living in the Boston Burbs. Each week, I release a video about one of Boston's many awesome suburbs. I'm here to answer all of your questions you may have about living in the Boston area. Remember to subscribe so you'll have access to my new videos. And reach out and comment and let me know what community you're interested in learning about. I love connecting with my YouTube viewers, so shout out any questions. I grew up here, my husband grew up here, we've raised 3 kids here, and I can tell you the skinny and the scoop on living in Greater Boston. So now on to Natick. What makes Natick a great place to live? It's a town of about 37,000 people. It is a big town with some rolling hills. It has a state park. So what does make Natick a great place to live? First of all, where is it? Natick is about 24 miles west of Boston. It's just on the outside of the area referred to as Greater Boston suburb. It is bordered by Framingham on the west, Wellesley on the east, which is where I live now, and Wayland and Weston on the north, and Dover on the south. Route 9, which is a 4-lane highway, and the Mass Turnpike cut right through Natick, for better or for worse. It's also very close to Route 495, which is the belt which goes around the Boston suburbs. There are 2 commuter rail stations, one with outstanding parking that's in West Natick, and it's about 30 to 45 minutes on the commuter rail to get to downtown Boston. One of the great things that you might be surprised to find when you move to Massachusetts, which is true of Natick and all the surrounding towns, is how compact everything is. So you can live here and you can be skiing in the mountains in 3 hours. You can be splashing in the ocean on Cape Cod in 2 hours or less. And Massachusetts has north and south beaches, which are about 45 to 55 minutes from Natick. Natick has actually 2 centers. Natick Center is where the municipal buildings are and the second smaller commuter rail station. And then there's another village called South Natick, which is where we used to live, that's really quite pretty, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The center of Natick is beautiful and has nice big new police station, a new library, a couple beautiful churches. It has great coffee shops, a couple terrific restaurants, vibrant community. South Natick is much smaller, and it has my favorite coffee shop and a pizza place and a couple real estate offices, surprise, surprise, and now there's a really great ice cream place. But other than that, that's more picturesque, and there's also a really cute little small library branch there. I would be remiss if I did not talk about the Natick Mall. Yes, we have an amazing mall. That is the draw for Natick and all the surrounding communities. It's quite upscale. There's a Nordstrom's, there's a Neiman Marcus, and there's also a Macy's and typical other stores that you would find. That's on Route 9, right next to a very large movie theater, which is technically over the line in Framingham, but you feel like you're in Natick. And lots of shopping and restaurants, great big places to hike and swim. There's Lake Cochituate. Say it with me, Cochituate. It's an old Native American word, and it's a Massachusetts state park. There's access actually from both Natick and from Wayland on the north, where there's beaches. You can rent little boats. There's lifeguards. It's a great place to hang out in the summer. Doug Pond is over by Natick High School. That's a smaller pond. A couple really pretty vistas of a couple different neighborhoods. There's a couple wildlife sanctuaries that we love to walk, and one of them is called Broadmoor Wildlife. It is owned by Mass Audubon. There's also an organic farm called the South Natick Organic Farm, which sadly had a buyer last year in the barn, and they lost a lot of animals. It's actually a great place to visit. It's a great place to take kids. There's summer camps there and programs throughout the year to teach kids about farming and where their food comes from, and they have a little market. where you can go and get eggs. And they did a lot of fundraising. So I know they're well underway to rebuilding the barn. Actually, there's a recurring theme today about fires in Natick. They've had another fire, which I'll tell you about later. There are lots of restaurants, both at the mall and downtown. One of our favorites is Buttercup, which is a farm-to-table style restaurant. Then there's the more typical chains you'd expect to find, Legal Seafoods. Okay, you're not from Massachusetts. You might not know about Legal Seafoods. It is a chain that's owned by brothers, and it has the best, freshest seafood you can find. There's California Pizza Kitchen. There's a good Chinese place called P.F. Chang's, which is also a chain. One of the reasons that people move to Natick is because of the great schools. They have an A+ rating on niche.com. But I would be remiss if I did not mention that if you look at the Boston Magazine ratings, weighs in at number 47, and all of those surrounding towns that I mentioned, like Dover and Wayland and Weston, they all routinely score in the top 10 or 12. In regard to schools, sometimes Natick feels like the poor stepchild. There is a beautiful high school that was built about 10 years ago. Really gorgeous. There's a brand new middle school. There are two middle schools. One is Wilson and one is Kennedy, which was completely rebuilt. And there are 5 neighborhood elementary schools. There's Lilja, Memorial, Ben Hemingway, which is known as Benham, Brown. Oh, I'm missing one. Nope, that's it. One of the cool things about Natick is there is a really amazing diverse stock of housing options. In 2021, there were actually more than 500 transactions, which is 300 more than neighboring Wellesley, for example, it's a little bit bigger than Wellesley. There are condos, everything from small condo that sold for $192,000, which you can see here, to luxury condos at the mall. Highest priced condo sale last year was $1,395. Similarly, for single family homes, there's a wide array of options. The least expensive house in 2021 was this small cottage for $340,000, which was close to the center of town, and yes, needed a little love. And the most expensive sale in 2021 was this $2 million estate, which is in more of a much larger lot, quite grand home. Interestingly, already in 2022, we have seen a number of sales or listings anyway, over $2 million. One of the things that you see in Natick that you don't see in the surrounding towns is more kind of tract developments, which are more common, I know, in other parts of the country. But a lot of post-World War II housing, Wethersfield neighborhood and the Pelham neighborhood, where there'll be tracts of homes, and interestingly with no foundations, which is unusual for New England. Most of our houses are built here with foundations. You can find all different lot sizes, all different styles, and everything from like an in-town urban vibe to a real bucolic feel. So I'm going to mention 2 of my favorite neighborhoods. One is South Natick, where we used to live. And we lived there for about 2 years. And after we got that house all fixed up, my husband just had to know what we could afford in Wellesley. So that was when we moved to Wellesley. But while we were in Natick, we really enjoyed it. It was really pretty. We could walk to our favorite coffee shop, Charles River Coffee Shop. I mentioned that beautiful small library that was built in the 1880s. And one of the also cool things is the Charles River goes right through Natick, and there's these beautiful falls. So you can pop over to the coffee shop, grab a sandwich or a muffin, and you can walk across the street and sit right by the falls. And you'll oftentimes see people fishing there. My other favorite neighborhood is called Walnut Hill, very close to downtown Natick. And there are small antique homes and also some newer homes, plus a mix of condos and apartments. Very famous private high school called the Walnut Hill School of Performing Arts. It's a boarding school and a day school there's an amazing ballet school and creative writing. If you have any specific questions about the housing stock here, please feel free to reach out to me and I will share any information that you need. Oh, also, I have a buyer's guide that kind of gives you a summary of all the different western suburbs, which makes it easy for you to compare. So if you'd like a copy, drop me a comment and I'll send that via email. Now, what are the cons about living in Natick? I already described one of them, where my husband decided after we'd lived there for a couple of years that he really wanted to go live in Wellesley because it's much closer to Boston. Also, the schools are rated higher. I have another client that had lived there and had a beautiful house and decided to move because the commute to Boston was that much longer, whether you're in the car or on the train. Right now, I mentioned earlier that there was another fire, an old building right in the center that burned down in 2019. So The center of town looks a little sad right now, but I know they're working on a plan. There was a downtown fire in the 1870s also, which they rebuilt. Another con is it's not a terribly diverse community, though we're getting better all the time, but it's about 80% white. And now I know you wanted to stay tuned for my fun facts. Natick is the home of Doug Flutie, woohoo! Famous football player. He played at Boston College, and he's played in the pros, he played in the Canadian League, and he's still, actually, his house just sold a couple years ago. There is a street in Framingham at the cinema called Flutie Pass. Another terrific fun thing is there's an amazing farmer's market on weekends in the summer on Saturdays, right in the center, which has great food and art, etc. I would like to give a shout out to my daughter's dance studio. The Greater Boston School of Dance is located in Natick, which has an amazing competitive dance team and also a ballet school, which was a great place for my kids where I spent many an hour and made some great friends. Interestingly, there is a world-class fencing master right here in Natick. Zoran Tulum is a world-famous fencing master who opened his own club in 2001. He was a coach at Harvard and at Stanford for many years and has coached Olympic teams internationally. Obviously, I have a penchant for obscure sports, so if you have a specific interest that you'd like to hear more about, send me a message and I'll get as much information as I can. My final fun fact is Natick established the first Fair Housing Practices Committee in the state of Massachusetts. Historically, there was lots of discrimination in housing, so I'm proud to know that Natick led the charge to make it more fair practices in Massachusetts. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe so you'll get all of the videos on the suburbs of Greater Boston. I'm here to answer any question that you may have and look forward to hearing from you. Is there a specific community you'd like to learn more about? Message me and I'll feature that next.